When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and we are on episode 195. I'm thinking, like, what do I want to do for episode 200? What is that episode going to look like? How special is it going to be? I haven't quite decided, but it's going to be a good one because I have never gotten to 200 episodes in any podcast that I've ever produced, and I'm super excited to reach 200 with this one. And we have a special guest today, Colleen Greco. And like I said, week after week, we bring amazing guests on here that are going to not only motivate you, but they're also going to empower you through knowledge, through teachings, through their inspirational stories. And today we're talking about embodying the essence of joy. I don't know if many of you know this, but on the meter, I guess it's like this table. The bottom feeders are like fear and shame and these areas that we carry around that we vibrate really, really low. And then on the very top of this table is joy. And some people rarely ever reach that full joy moment in their life, and they wonder, why is that? Well, we're going to be talking to a joyologist today all about how she does that. And we're going to dive a little bit more in what does joy mean and how did she get to that place and or helping others get to that place, because it's something that not always we can do on our own. But before we get to Colleen, she's got my same name. I'm so excited. Colleen Greco. I want to thank today's sponsor of today's show, Peaceful Living. Why do we allow stress to compound in our lives, affecting our sleep and our daily rituals? The truth is we all live with stress, but imagine what it would feel like not to suffer from stress. Are you ready to feel better, sleep better, and change your overall relationship with tension? Peaceful Living can help you bring more peaceful moments into your day. Peaceful Living offers simple tools, live streams, and on-demand classes, and a customized self-care success plan. Imagine if you had simple ways to slow down and restore your energy without taking big chunks of time away from your schedule. We know it's possible, and we're here to help. And the founder, Roberta Hughes, will be the guide each step of the way. So visit Peaceful Living at the link we have below and begin your journey with a free membership. Use code LEAP to receive your first month for free. Thank you, Roberta, for giving our listeners the first month for free. I actually did an online yin yoga class this morning because my muscles have been really tense. And so I did an online yin yoga class. She's the master at yin yoga. She also has a studio in Parker, Colorado. So she's expanded into working with neonatal and teaches Pilates as well. So anyway, let's get to our guest today, Colleen Greco. She is compassionate, empathetic, and boldly authentic human being who made it her life's work to support women on their path toward their fullest potential. But she wasn't always this way. Like most, she's been plagued with the weight of her own self-defeating thoughts, having carried some for over 4 decades. Yet through her own path of self-discovery, her spiritual exploration and personal upheavals, Colleen emerged as a boldly authentic human being, radiating an unimaginable source of joy. And it was through her 10-year-old son's suicide attempt that she discovered her calling as a joyologist. So when no doctor or therapist would help her and her family heal, Colleen knew it was up to her to put the pieces of their lives back together again. As an inspirational speaker, Colleen shared her insights and transformational SNAP method with audiences worldwide. Whether addressing intimate gatherings or corporate boardrooms, she captivates her audience with authenticity and empowers listeners to take actionable steps toward their maximum potential. In the house, Colleen Greco.
Hello, how are we doing? Oh, I am so
Good.
excited to
So
be in the presence of another Colleen because I think we are the best.
Yeah,
So
I know you said you've known a lot of them, and I told you on one hand I can count as many Colleens I've met my entire life.
I have 3 in my group for the listeners, I spell my name with one L. Colleen Biggs spells it with two L's. I have three Colleens in my group that spell it with one L. I'm like,
Crazy.
where is this coming from?
Yeah.
So we're just like changing the conversation. Just,
On my birth certificate, I noticed my mom spelled it with one L, and then she went in for a typo and like resubmitted it, like right after when she got it back and said it was spelled wrong. So I'm
yeah.
two L's, two E's, two G's. I tell people, Colleen Biggs. And then they always have to, you see them thinking, wait, two L's, two E's, two. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, I mean, luckily I married someone with, the two G's part. But okay, so you've had a life. Not everyone has a child that goes through what your 10-year-old child went through. Do you want to walk us through some of even your own self-defeating thoughts that you've had from your childhood and then your son's childhood at 10 years old? And where was your life through all of that? Like, where was it then?
Ooh, so much to unpack. Okay.
Yes,
So
let's unpack.
I'll start with the last question first. Where was my life? My life was great on the surface, like on paper. I was in IT marketing. I was an executive. I had a phenomenal salary and all the, stock options and really big savings accounts and all the things. My kids on paper were great. My marriage, great. Married my best friend. We've now been married 23 years. I'd have to stop and think of like what
Yeah.
date it is.
It's
But I
not
don't know,
just
like
men that can't
23.
remember. So
Right.
they always say, oh,
So,
men can never remember. I'm like, I forget too. So
yeah,
yeah.
great house, all the things, like everything that, you kind of like stop and think, oh, I wish I had. I feel like we had. Um, Very blessed in so many ways, but so dead inside that I didn't even realize it. I lacked presence at every step and didn't realize it until this suicide attempt had happened. He was the most popular kid in school. So again, you think of like a child that is, at such a level where they feel like that is the only way out. You think of maybe somebody who's a little bit more recluse, kind of like cowers around other people and doesn't feel much of themselves. No, he was flying high. He was doing amazingly well. Most popular kid in school. We didn't want that for him. I wasn't looking for him to be popular. He just was. Everybody loves him and felt like he was really magnetic. Um, Wonder where he gets it from. But but no, in all seriousness, top athlete was the top athlete at the time. I know he was 10, but he was the best basketball player on the team. But his best friend was really jealous of the position that he had. And so
Mhm.
he got him to join the football. And I was not really interested in my kids playing football. I like them in one piece and to come home at the end of the day. And that just felt like a little much for him. But he did it. And the boy was a lot better at football than my son was. And he targeted him and he knocked him out, gave him a concussion. Then he got all of my son's friends, which were also this kid's friends, to turn against him. And one by one, over the course of a week, as all of this bullying is going on,
A lot of bullying.
they pulled back. And it was the final straw was that one of the boys was having a birthday party sleepover. And the mom called me to uninvite my son to the party. And I had to tell him. And that just broke him. And so he attempted suicide and thankfully was not successful. But what I realized was I missed all of this. Like I was present for the practices, I went to the games, but I didn't really see the manipulation that was going on. And I didn't realize how miserable I was in my career. And I really should have known. I mean, I was traveling my birthday, their birthdays, my wedding anniversary. I can't tell you how many wedding anniversaries I had dinner with somebody I worked with and not my own husband. I was never around. And so it really caused me to stop and have to really reevaluate everything that was going on in my life that I thought were all the things I should be doing. And I was doing, I believe, all of it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I
But
want to fast forward for people listening.
yeah.
He is fine now. So
How old is he now?
he's 17. He
17.
is in the National Honor Society. He is applying to colleges. Well, should be now any day. But but he's
Mom
doing.
wants him to apply for colleges.
Mom is like, could you just get them in so I don't have to think about it? Like, is that too much to ask? But he's truly the problems I have with him now, I
Yeah.
am so grateful for because there were days where I didn't think I would ever experience this with him.
Yeah.
His junior prom picture, there were 38 people in that picture. But when the suicide attempt happened, he didn't have an entire play date for a year. So imagine how amazed or how amazing it felt when there were 38 people in that picture that absolutely loved him and held him up on this pedestal. It's just such a blessing, and I credit Joy for the thing that got us to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't do it without community. I think it goes to really show how crucial community is for all of us because that community was wiped out and pulled away and he felt alone, like
He
he
was
had
alone.
nobody. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we all
everyone
were.
kind of alienated him.
Yep, because our friends didn't want to touch that at all. They didn't
Yeah.
want anything to do with it. It was scary. Do you think I wanted to be here half the time, right?
Yeah.
Wondering, do I need to take the door off the hinges? Is this going to happen again?
Yeah.
I get it. But, what really, as you said in the opening, there were no doctors or therapists that were willing to talk to us. What I very quickly realized was it was going to be up to me to put all of this back together. And I said, love is how we're going to get through it. We are going to love on him like we have never loved before. And just when we think we have run out of love, we're going to dig deeper, into that like big
Find more
toe
love.
and find more and give it to him. And that's what we did. And we pieced together joy in the smallest of moments. I have my dogs laying right here, and I really hope they stay quiet. But we tapped into their energy. We thought, like, when you take them for walks, they're so whimsical and they frolic and they find joy in the smallest of moments. So what is it about what they're doing that we can replicate in our own lives and
Yeah.
help us to survive? Because in the beginning, as you're going through this, you can't think about what you had for lunch. Like, that's too far off in the distance. You're piecing together second by second. And
Yeah.
eventually, over time, you're evolving to minutes and then hours. But in the beginning, you're just trying to get through to the next second. So joy was how we did that.
So you really had to help him rewire his brain essentially to understand that he can find joy, that he doesn't have to wait for other people to bring joy to him, which
Yeah.
is usually an expectation of a younger child or sometimes adults. Like it's the other person in the relationship that brings me joy and makes me happy, but I need to find joy and happiness in myself before I get into that relationship because
100%. Yes. So I when people ask me what is the difference between joy and happiness, I say happiness is a result of something external.
mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I might pay you a compliment and say, "Well, Colleen, your hair looks lovely." And you're like, "Oh, thank you."
Oh,
Right?
thanks, Colleen.
You need to know it yourself
Yeah.
and be like, "I love myself so much that I don't need anybody else to tell me
That I care
that."
about what I look like when I
Right.
walk out of the house. Like I care. I want to look presentable. I want to feel good and confident with how I do my hair or how I, dress, right? It's a
Mhm.
reflection on the outside is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. So the snap method, girl, it
Yeah.
is that time of the podcast. We need to get into this snap. Everyone's like, snap, what's that like? Oh, snap. No,
Yeah.
it's not all snap. So what is the snap
It could
method?
be. You could be
But
like,
it could be, yeah, like, "Oh, snap." What is the SNAP method that you came up with? Because that is something you've just uncovered through your own tragedies in your life to get back to, not back to move forward through. It's not back to, it's moving forward through to a
Mhm.
better life for you, your family, your children, your
Yeah.
dogs. What is the SNAP method?
So initially, when the trauma happened, I didn't handle it well, and I ate and drank my way up to uh, like pre-pregnant or pregnancy weights, not pre-pregnancy. And as I was working with a nutrition coach to take it off, because I felt like I needed support so I could focus all my energy on him. And I was starting to lose the weight and asked him to help me develop strategies that would help me keep it off so I don't have to do this again. Like, how about we just do this once? And his answer was, I'm not your therapist. And I thought,
Excuse
wow,
me.
yeah. If you don't
I'm
see the
here for a reason.
connection,
I thought you might help me or
right. Yeah. Kind of paying you for that, aren't I? But it presented an opportunity. And to me, if you don't see the direct connection between nutrition and
Mhm.
mindset, like you have missed the boat. And
Oh,
truthfully, in
yeah.
his defense, he was probably 23 and had 0% body fat. So he
Right.
probably hasn't had the same life experiences.
Maybe
But
if you looked him up today, it might look different.
yeah, I should Google him. That would be funny. And then send him my after picture and be like,
Yeah.
you missed this.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me tell you about my SNAP method. You might want to send some people my way because you're
right.
not their therapist.
You're not there at all. So I took myself out onto my front lawn where I do a lot of my journaling and brought my dog and was just sort of like, I've got to figure this out. And it just came to me. It was just like a download, just
Mm.
boom. And it is the methodology for removing those limiting beliefs that keep us feeling stuck. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never have that kind of money. I'll never be able to do that type of a thing. Whatever that is, it's a little different for everybody, but I'm not good enough is probably the one I come across the most.
Hmm.
And it is, the first, so it's an acronym. S stands for stop. So generally, when that trigger strikes, when that stressful moment strikes, when that story comes up and you're like, I'm not good enough again, there's the proof. Um, a lot of people, especially women, run to the pantry or the liquor cabinet to self-soothe, right? Because we're like, I'm so mad at Colleen, and you just like dart off and you grab the bag of potato chips and never look back. So S stands for stop, where I'm advising we stay and we just let the trigger wash all over us. Like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like it, but just let it wash all over you. There's nothing you can do about it. It's already here. The next step is notice. And let me just go back for a second. So part of the beauty of stop is you're not getting up and going.
Or having a numbing agent. It's some type of numbing agent. Something's
Right.
numbing you somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Making you
Yeah.
feel good
And
because of some pain.
it'll bring your um that fight or flight response way down. And even if it's for 10 minutes, it makes a major difference. So N stands for notice. And this is when I tell people to grab a notebook or your journal and start to document the scenario for what you believe has taken place.
Hmm.
So, Colleen said this, it made me feel this way. I um, had some sort of every trigger has a physical visceral response. So maybe you break out into a sweat, maybe you get a lump in your throat, or your voice is shaky. We all have different responses. I generally get a lump in my throat. So I know when I'm like, there's a golf ball in there, I'm triggered by something. And so I immediately grab my journal and I just start documenting. And within, for me, because I've been doing it so long, I'm pretty good at it. But a few lines, I can figure out what that limiting belief is. And so I tell people, let's write it all down. And this isn't the time to judge it. This is the time for you to just capture it. The next step is when we'll go back and really look at it. But for now, just capture the whole scenario for what you believe it to be. A stands for accept or analyze. And
Mm.
this is when you look at the trigger and you look at your journal entry and you can separate the fact from the emotion. Like, what is it that she really said versus what I heard, right? Which is very different a lot of the time. Um, And then the last step, which is my favorite, P, it stands for practice gratitude. And you thank the trigger for coming because it is the body's way of telling you you're out of alignment. You have gotten in your head again and you're out of your heart. And how do we get you back into alignment? And it's by doing this work. And the more you do it, the more you're able to let these things go, which enable you to welcome that abundance in. I talk a lot about mirrors, which is another way I use to describe limiting beliefs. They're just opportunities. They're
Mhm.
just like it sounds. It's a mirror put up in front of your face for you to look at the thing for what it is. It isn't ever about the other person. It's always about you. And when you do that work to unpack it, you can let it go. And again, that opens up more space for more abundance to come in.
I love that. I love that. So, all of this, when you talked about it just downloading to you, all of it comes to us when we're open to believe that we um, can get help from a higher force and a higher source, and that we can be guided. We have faith in that. And I'm sure during your lowest moments, in your 10-year-old son's suicide attempt, your family was feeling at its lowest moments and was
Mhm.
looking for guidance and was looking for
Yes.
help, right?
Yes.
In everywhere, prayer, spiritual, people, specialists, you're just like somebody and something, we just need help. And that's how I'm sure many women feel. Because in the very beginning, I talked about how you work to support women on their path toward their fullest potential. So, who's the ideal client to work with you? Who is that person? I want her to be able to identify herself right now.
She is filled with excuses as to why her life is the way that it is. And I don't say that from like a shame or a self-deprecation standpoint, but it's like, well, I was born this way, or right? You have like a reason why you are the way that you are. But I
Is
am
she
here to say,
overweight? Is she
generally,
overworked? Is she
yes,
unhappy in her job? Is
yes,
she unhappy in a relationship?
yes, she is unhappy.
Okay.
Right? She knows or she believes there is more out there for her. And she has this dream that she hasn't yet gone for because she doesn't really think it's for her. And I tell my clients all of the time that dream was implanted
Mhm.
in you. That wasn't your idea.
Sure.
I believe in God, but other
I do
people
too.
don't, right? But God put that in me. God
Mhm.
put this joy thing in me. I skipped over the part where I was contemplating my own suicide as this had all happened,
Yeah.
right? He literally dropped joy right on me and I kind of woke up, right? I was crying on that rug.
Mm.
You can see it from here. And he shifted me. For other people, like their dream is to, start their own business or to meet the man or woman of their dreams. And they just feel like, well, it's never going to happen. It will, but it won't with that kind of attitude. We've got to remove
Yep.
those limiting beliefs and get you to love yourself unconditionally. And the more that you do that, the more abundance you bring in, the more amazing gifts you bring in. I see it all the time in my own life. I don't even
Mhm.
need anybody else's example. I see it in my own life all the time. The more I trust and the more I anchor on the gifts and the greatness that I have, the more I get.
Yeah.
So how about we
So,
just do that instead of shame and hate ourselves?
someone
Like,
said the other day, "You're manifesting anyway, so why not use it for the positive?"
right.
And you're like, "Oh, I never thought about it that way." Oh, yeah. Negative thoughts, manifesting. Positive
Mhm.
thoughts, manifesting. Do you want it to be positive? Have more positive thoughts. Focus more on the positive manifesting. So, if they want to unleash their maximum potential and they want to get out of this kind of cycle they're in, they just need to say, "Oh, snap."
Yep.
And then Colleen's their girl. I love it. Like, oh, I would play on that all day long, girl, I'm telling you. Okay, so you have a special offer, a free, ebook download, Crush Limiting Beliefs. We have that
Mhm.
link. Wanna tell us a minute about that?
Yeah, so that goes into the SNAP method in a little bit more detail and kind of
Yeah.
walks you through how you can do this work yourself.
Yeah.
I think it is the most important work that you can do. I think So many of us think we are going to live until we're 90, 95. Not the case. It could be taken from you in the next 5 minutes. So how about we do this work, not to be morbid, but how about we do this work so that we can maximize those days? I tell
Mhm.
people all the time, you either have 3 days or 3,000 and you won't know until it's over. So how about we make the most of those days that we have?
I
So
love
that's
it.
that's my wish for everyone.
You can follow Colleen on Instagram at the Colleen Greco. Remember, one L, not two, like mine. COLEENGRECO. And you can follow her on Instagram and also get your crush limiting beliefs. So it goes a little bit into the snap method. I just love it. I'm going to be saying it all day long. Want to unleash your maximum potential. You've got to take actionable steps. It just doesn't happen overnight. And your yo-yo diets aren't working. They're just not working, and it just is going to be for the rest of your life. And that's why I think when we stop focusing on the food and we start focusing on our inner selves and working on our own beliefs, that changes your body because your beliefs are different. And that's where the eating comes from. Colleen, this has been joyful.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Colleen. This has been great. I love it.
Joyful. I
Thanks for
loved
having me.
today's episode. It was the perfect episode for 195. I'm telling you. Perfect episode. All about embodying the essence of joy in the snap method, which I absolutely love. And thank you to Colleen Greco for being here today. And I'm just going to remind each one of you right now that are listening, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. There's no do-overs, my friend. This is it. One body, one life. So what are you going to do with that? And if you're sitting in a place where you're not exactly happy enough, or I'm going to say joyful in your life, not happy enough. We know that's outside. This is what Colleen told us. Joyful. If you don't feel joyful, then maybe the SNAP method is for you. So
Absolutely.
you can reach out to Colleen, like I said, on Instagram, or you can also click on the links below to get to her Crushing Limiting Beliefs ebook. Start there, reach out to her, connect with her. It's a great time for you to change your life for the better. No one should ever have to suffer their entire life and never reach joy. Let's do this together. Create a joyful earth. I love that,
I
Colleen. Let's
love
create
it.
a joyful earth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you listening today, thank you so much for being a loyal listener of Take the Leap. And thank you, Colleen, for being on today's show. And remember, until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.